Welcome back, everyone, to the Bochum Regional Championships of 2023. We're on day 2 of our trainers' journeys to the top of this regional. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us with you now, because it is so worth it to have you right here now, because we are shortly going to be getting on to our top 8. My name is David, and this is Costa.
We really will be indeed. Hello, everybody. It's very exciting so far. I think every single match we've been able to feature has been a cracker. It's been very enjoyable from both, of course, a spectator view as well as a caster view to be going through the thoughts of these world-class caliber players and all of the different strategies, as well as RNG at times as well, because that's also an additional factor to take into consideration when you are, of course, trying to best your opponent. That being said, I do believe we have the top 16 standings of this current tournament that we will be able to feature shortly on screen. But going into this at the moment, I don't believe we have a top 8 match that has been currently defined as of yet.
Not absolutely right now, but we are shortly going to be able to get a couple of people on for us who are definitely going to be a little bit nervous going into this, because they're getting so much closer to that winner.
Yep.
But yes, here are the standings, top 16. So, and top 16 is very crucial here as well. Obviously, it's a top 8 cut, so anyone beyond that is not, unfortunately, going to be going any further. But they have secured themselves a lot of championship points and a little bit of prize money for themselves too.
Exactly. I think just being able to reach the stage where you get that sort of reward, not only for yourself, for your own accomplishments, but also the CP is the main goal and name of the game, right? You want to be able to essentially put yourself in a really good position, both for travel awards as well as stipends, because it's a very big race going on, and it is quite tough to be able to get to the top of it when you have such tough opponents to be taken into consideration. All of Europe's finest, and it has honestly been such a treat to watch. But a couple of highlights here that we've got in the running. It seems actually we do have the top 8, so we can, of course, confirm it. Giuseppe Musico was able to come first so far in the original structure of Swiss with 13-1, something that is insanely difficult to be able to accomplish.
What an accomplishment, exactly. And it's the only person to be able to do that. But as you can see, everyone has lost a game. There's no kind of undefeated person at the moment. So that means no one is unbeatable either. So everyone's kind of gone into this, right, I have lost to something, and let's hope I don't really face it again, because we've had so many rounds of Swiss at the moment. A lot of these players have already faced each other. So even if we go into the top 8, there's going to be some rematches, I think, that we might be seeing. Yeah,
exactly that. So a lot of mind games that will be coming our way, of course. A couple of shout-outs as well. We've got quite a few German representatives making it through into top 8. We've got 3, Markus Statter, Faaiz Ashfaq, as well as Michael Kelch. So really good showmanship from these trainers going into this German-hosted regional championship.
Yeah, and they're looking really strong as well. When we had Bremen regionals last year as well, it was the German that kind of won through there in Maurice Uteg as well. He did very well. So it's another German home regional here today. So I think a lot of people might be banking on it, especially as there's the most of them here at the moment too. And we've got the home crowd as well, and that's certainly probably going to help them as well, especially once they start getting onto the stream. Everyone can see them and really can cheer them on.
Exactly that. But of course, what we will be doing is looking forward to seeing the general structure as well. I believe the CPs is something that the championship points, should I say, is something that, of course, like we mentioned, is the main name of the game. You want to be able to essentially establish yourself into a very good running going into Yokohama for the World Championships later on. We've got a bit of a breakdown of what the current CP as well as money prizes actually entail, with dependent on the position that you have been able to get during this tournament or any sort of regional championships. We see, so for example, 80 CP to automatically to the top 16, accompanied by a lovely little reward.
Yeah, $250 is nothing to take a stick at. Everyone should be very happy if you've got that far. But as you can see, all of our top 8s have at least guaranteed that 100 CP. That is over half almost half an invite already from just this one regional, and most of those, or at least half, are going to get a little bit higher as well. And that $3,000 200 CP for that win, that is going to taste very sweet. So even if there was no travel award option, if so, maybe you've lost the day 2 race and you've done well here, that's still plenty to be able to go a little bit further out there, maybe go to the next IC, go across the pond a little bit, go visit NIIC. That is going to be something very special, let alone the title of Bochum Regional Champion.
Exactly, I think, because that's what all of these trainers have as a main goal in their minds. So it is really cool to be able to see them all battle it out to their best of efforts in order to go through and gain that championship title. So what we will be doing, we've been informed, of course, that at the current moment, we will be having our match set up very shortly. But going into that, of course, we mentioned quite a few times there have been a couple of established cores that have become a bit more prominent than others. I think, for example, we've got the Talonflame and the Great Tusk combination, naturally, with the Iron Bundle and the Fluttermane, which are very offensively powerful and quick.
Absolutely, yeah. We've seen so many teams really use these Pokemon to such great effect. And we're going to be shortly getting into our top 8, as you can see, with Faaiz versus Álex Soto. We've had both of these players on stream. Álex predominantly yesterday piloting his hard Trick Room team, which was entirely for Series 1 Pokemon. No Paradox Pokemon to speak of, and he was, up until only very recently, undefeated with it too. And it's not a surprise as well, as you mentioned, the Talonflame having the Tailwind option, Great Tusk being quite fast as well. As soon as you can deny all that and just get up your Trick Room, suddenly any of your Tailwinds, your Icy Winds from your Iron Bundle, they mean nothing in front of Trick Room and a Torkoal just going straight for those eruptions.
I don't think we've overstated enough how difficult it is in a meta with Paradox Pokemon to make the team building decision not to bring any, and to the way that Álex Soto has been able to do it. He, of course, was one of the finalists of the Liverpool 2023 Regional Championship. So with the same team, there have been a couple of adaptations, I believe, with one or several of the moves, as well as how each of the Pokemon are trained in order to adapt into the current Series 2 meta, which, of course, does house all of those powerhouses of Paradox Pokemon.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those changes was actually the Annihilate into the Grass Terra type,
yeah,
which is a very good choice, to be honest, because so many of this top-level play, we've seen players use the all-reliable Amoonguss to such great effect with that Rage Powder and the Spore just constantly. So having a little option for that is really good, and it is that Choice Scarf variant, I believe, as well, that can really hit so hard with that final Gambit. On Faaiz end, he's running a little bit more of a a standard team here, but he's piloted it so well towards the end that we're just going into top 8 here. Álex Soto has probably taken a lot of players off guard with his hard Trick Room team, but now he's facing people who are a little bit more aware. There's maybe been some discussions, maybe overnight, or some thoughts individually of all of these players about how to approach the matchup that Álex has, because he's been able to take away so many established players and just defeat them with such ease, thanks to his very underused hard Trick Room strategy. So I'm really curious to see how Faaiz adapts to this and maybe brings some of his more bulky Pokemon to the matchup.
Exactly that, and of course we had seen that Faaiz in Series 1 was definitely both of these trainers did actually face off against each other in the top 4, if I'm not mistaken, of Liverpool Regional Championships, where I think Faaiz is very well aware of this team over on Alex's side, so it's just going to be able to try to establish a way to break through this core. A lot of different things to take into consideration here with Álex. We know that it's a hard Trick Room setup and core. You just need to be able to navigate around either the main sweepers that have been positioned perfectly at the correct time, or versus a potential second Trick Room being set up at some point during the mid towards end game.
Something we haven't seen, I think, over the course of some of our Twitch streams at the moment, and also on YouTube, of course, is that we haven't seen much Torkoal mirrors at the moment. Usually one Pokemon, or one player has had the Torkoal here, and that's used to boost their own kind of Paradox Pokemon, activate that photosynthesis, but we do have both at the moment, but with two very different kind of roles. So on Faiz's end, it's the Flamethrower Yawn kind of helping hand protect set. And on Alex's end, it's the Eruption Flamethrower Earth Power Clear Smoke that we're so more familiar with from that Series 1, where you set up Trick Room, get up Torkoal into that position, and start going for that big damage. So it's definitely on Faiz's end to kind of be maybe a little bit more on the back foot once Trick Rooms goes up in terms of how he's going to stall it out. And looking at his team, there's a lot that doesn't want to take those eruptions.
Exactly, and I think a couple of notable items, as always, the mouse hold safety goggles has definitely grown in further popularity. It makes a lot of sense. You want to be able to redirect any sort of either set up Pokemon or main sweeper that is found by its side in combination with the Friend Guard ability, adding a tiny bit more bulk onto its partner Pokemon. Choice specs, Flutter Mane, in combination with Photosynthesis, with the Sun setup, can really dish out a lot of damage if, of course, the Photosynthesis stat does heighten up for the special attack damage output as opposed to the speed, which we have actually seen a couple of these Flutter Manes built around by.
I can really see Faiz kind of going on his King Gambit here as well. With that Fire Terror type, he's going to be able to get at that in Trick Room and actually take some of these Torkoal moves that are going to be really hard hitting. Because looking at Alex's team here, there's actually nothing that hits Fire type super effectively. So I think that King Gambit Fire type is going to be a really key pawn for Faiz here. And Alex's team, as you could see here, if you did not catch his game last day, here it is. Nice, simple, hard Trick Room, which is just doing so well. Indeedee Hatterene to try and set up a Trick Room. You've got Indeedee Armarouge, which has also been quite prevalent. You've got Annihilate Hatterene as another combination. So there is not just kind of one lead that he can use here. So it's even so much of a guessing game even before the match starts.
Right, exactly. And I think King Gambit actually having Swords Dance, not something we commonly have seen in recent King Gambit sets, really does set up the scene for any focus on being able to have an additional sweeper in the back. You know, we've got this situation where King Gambit can really snowball if put in the right position versus any sort of intimidate users on the other side, which, of course, Faaiz does not currently have. However, you don't need that in this situation. You don't need the Defiant proc. You just need to make sure you get a Swords Dance up. You can really sweep in the certain condition that you need to. But we've got the main threats. We've got 3 Trick Room setters. We've got multiple. We've got a Torkoal. I think enough said. That's already so prevalent and such a good utility when it comes to a sweeping damage.
On Faiz's end, I think we're going to definitely see a combination of the Torkoal and that King Gambit to be able to deal with the Trick Room that Álex is really offering here. Because that Yawn will really slow things down as opposed to something like an alternative supportive fire type like an Arcanine, which is just going to activate the Defiance of the Annihilate and the King Gambit, which you don't want. So here are the leads. Hatterene, Indeedee, female, and then King Gambit and Great Tusk.
Yes, so of course we do see the Psychic Seed being procced on that female Indeedee. Will be giving it the +1 in its special defense. So we've got a double Trick Room users over on Alex's side versus the Great Tusk and King Gambit. I don't believe this King Gambit is of the Flying Terror type to have that very nice sort of strategy of going for any potential Earthquake scenarios. However, we can't even do that as the Ice Spinner is the choice of move on that Great Tusk.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool move at the moment here. It's going to really slow down any particular psychic moves that can dish out damage. Great Tusk has a lot of bulk to it too, so without that psychic terrain, it may be able to live a few hits here. Trick Room is the move that does go up. Not a huge surprise versus Alex's team at the moment, as Flutter Mane actually does come in here, but it's now looking to be very much on the slower end. But thanks to the psychic terrain now going down, it's probably going to be able to live a couple of moves. And now it does have that choice specs, dishing out a whole lot of damage kind of early game while this Indeedee is kind of stuck on the field, not doing a whole lot. It's something that Faaiz is probably really looking to make the most of before Álex can start into getting something like his Torkoal, which is going to be much more of an effective Trick Room sweeper.
Exactly, as we are going to be seeing the Great Tusk now being very well aware of the threat over on Alex's side. Switch out for that King Gambit. So well said there. Of course, it will be able to be immune to any sort of Psychic type moves, of which we did not see at all during this turn. Double Dazzling Gleam from both the Hatterene as well as the female Indeedee and the Flutter Mane. So quite a few dazzles there and a lot of damage that has been actually very solid onto both the Indeedee and Hatterene.
Yeah, I would be wanting Álex to really kind of pivot out of this position at the moment, because Torkoal is something he really wants to get in and start making the most of this Trick Room. Because that's another Trick Room turn kind of gone, and no kind of KO on Alex's end either. And this Flutter Mane, which is not really designed to operate in Trick Room, is being allowed to right now. And we haven't seen the King Gambit actually terrestrialize or anything yet either, which we've seen Álex kind of with great effect need to proc on his opponents really early on, and that's really giving him a leg up in the late game. So indeed, it looks like it's trying to go for that follow me. Maybe it's going to try and go down straight away.
Exactly, but follow me does mean that the Sucker Punch does now fail. Hatterene on the offensive, goes into the Flutter Mane. Oh, picks up the KO. Of course, hitting for very strong neutral damage, powered by that very, very good item, Life Orb. We've seen Life Orb has been essentially forever in competitive formats and scenes, especially ever since it has been introduced into the game.
And we've got 2 more turns to Trick Room, I believe, for Álex now, so he's really running out of options now. And especially if it's Hatterene and Indeedee getting a little bit lower on their health, it's reducing the chances for him being able to get another Trick Room up in this game, unless he's kind of brought the Armor Rouge in the back as well, which can also Trick Room. Having 2 Trick Room users on the field does mean he can do a double Trick Room play at some point. If, say, on the last turn of Trick Room, Faaiz goes for like a more defensive play and doesn't try and take a KO, trying to stall out that final turn. But due to the lower health at the moment, especially with Life Orb chipping away, that's getting less and less likely. So Faaiz is doing actually a good job at kind of stalling out this Trick Room, even though his Flutter Mane's now gone down here.
As we're going to be seeing the female Indeedee switching out, Álex taking into consideration wanting to perhaps have Psychic Terrain later on in this match. Torkoal is going to be the primary. Trick Room Sweeper does now come onto the field. Mousehold redirecting any sort of attacks coming out, but no need, as the Sucker Punch is going to go ahead and pick up that KO onto the Hatterene. But this sort of opens up the play for Álex to be able to just bring that female Indeedee straight back in.
Yeah, and then the Psychic Terrain is up, so kind of any sort of fake out options is off the board. Faaiz doesn't really have those options, but he's got 2 protects here on both his King Gambit and the Mousehold. So on this kind of final turn Trick Room, he can just kind of safely protect here. There's no kind of punishing play or kind of setup that he can really go for if he brought the Indeedee in here. I wonder if he does bring in something like the King Gambit, he can maybe go for a Sword Stance, but it is the Indeedee at the moment. So Psychic Terrain does get set up, which means Torkoal's obviously threatening a lot of damage right now, but yeah, the threat of Protect at the moment is pretty big, and there's not a lot of downsides to kind of Faaiz doing that at the moment. The most that we could do is see a potential switch out to something else for Álex, get Indeedee out and get something in, but then you're removing your Trick Room option too. So I really like the way Faaiz has positioned his Pokemon that Álex is maybe not kind of prepared for enough here, or maybe capitalized enough for, because King Gambit is literally sitting there, being able to pick up the KOs that it needs. And if Trick Room goes down at this point, then King Gambit's in a position where it's an already bulky Pokemon, is then also the fastest on the field as well, which is getting pretty dangerous for Álex.
Exactly, and I think we've also seen this King Gambit does have the Fire Terror type as an option that it can go for in order to mitigate any high amounts of damage coming out from this Torkoal. However, no such damage is going to be dealt during this turn, as we do see a double Protect from both of Faiz's Pokemon. Flamethrower from the Torkoal on Alex's side is going to be the choice of move, trying to focus down a bit on the main threat, of course. However, like you said, David, we've got Trick Room, which has now expired, so Indeedee is going to have to try to either set this Trick Room back up, or Álex may hope to have another Trick Room used in the back, namely being that Armor Rouge.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to rely on another Trick Room user at this point. I think you're right, Costa. This Armor Rouge needs to kind of be in the back for Álex to kind of turn this around at the moment. Indeed, he has no Protect that it can really offer to be able to pivot around or catch Faaiz doing a kind of a double up, because Indeed, he definitely wants to go for a Trick Room here, but Faaiz has a guaranteed play to be able to stop that right now. There's a 100% accurate move, Dark-type move on this King Gambit that can just take it out. And that will completely deny it at this point. But we are going to see the Indeedee switch out at the moment, so let's see what comes back in.
Ooh, it's going to be the King Gambit making its way onto the field right now. So, interesting choice. We see that Álex has just remained with the 2 Trick Room users as choice during this game 1. Perhaps taking into consideration that he wants to be able to go onto the offensive with a King Gambit just in case he can focus down. However, we see the Fire Terror type Torkoal coming into play, helping hand, trying to assist this King Gambit. Ooh, going for the Iron Head into the opposing King Gambit on Alex's side. Isn't going to do much damage, especially with how bulky this King Gambit is generally, but wow, talk about bulk, there is none when you are facing a Fire Terror type Torkoal with Eruption in the sun.
This game just got turned around completely, Costa. The Torkoal was just left completely unrespected here, took absolutely no damage with no kind of follow me attention either, and instead of going for like a single target flamethrower, which maybe Faaiz thought Álex might go for, which is a lot safer especially if you take a lot of damage. No, Álex just turns up the heat incredibly, Eruption, double KO, and now all he has is a Great Tusk. Now if he had Earthquake, this would be great still.
Exactly.
But there is no Earthquake. It is Focus Sash. It's going to be able to take 1 hit, but it's only the Headlong Rush that's going to be able to target into either of these Pokemon. And even then, Álex still has the option of protecting on his... well, actually, no, sorry. He doesn't actually have Protect on either of these Pokemon, but he still has a decent amount of options in the back at the moment.
He really does. So Faaiz, on the other hand, is going to try to go for the Ground Terror type right here. Like you said, David, if there was Earthquake, there would be a really, really good way for them. But however, we're going to be seeing the Headlong Rush. Which Pokemon does it focus down on? It is going to be the King Gambit, of course, picking up the KO. You have the additional damage output of Photosynthesis, heightening this Great Tusk's attack stat to even greater heights. Flamethrower, on the other hand, will be targeting this slot. We know Great Tusk is not specially defensively bulky, and that is a direct result of proof there being able to be brought down to its Focus Sash.
Yeah, that's such a huge amount of damage going from Flamethrower. Álex really kind of turning up the heat even without the Trick Room now. But as we can see, only single target moves from this Great Tusk, so it is now GG at the moment. Headlong Rush, good, just for good measure, just to show off that nice Terror type, does KO this Torkoal at the moment, but it should be the finishing KO from this Dazzling Gleam here.
Not what you expect from a female Indeedee to be able to sweep up and get you the game win, but this is exactly what we are going to be seeing from Alex's side. Being able to wrap up that game 1 in the way that he has was really, really strong and pivotal. I think that kind of gives a bit of additional understanding and respect to double target moves when it comes to the Great Tusk as a whole. I think that's what we were just talking about prior, where we have the Talonflame Great Tusk sort of calls and setups where they try to take advantage of not being able to hit your own partner Pokemon. However, based on Faiz's Pokemon, how they have been constructed, that is not the case. It's not needed, and it kind of is quite unfortunate matchup-wise for him. So he's going to have to try to find a way to navigate around all of this pressure coming out from Alex's side.
As we saw in that game, Faaiz was kind of having a lot of offensive pressure really from the start, because indeed he wasn't able to switch out. Álex didn't make the most of it at that time. He wasn't really getting a lot of KOs, and Faaiz was looking like he was going to stall it out. But it came to the point where Álex was able to get his Torkoal in such a position that it put up those surprise KOs.
Yep.
So I'd like to see Faaiz maybe this game use his King Gambit a little bit better. We didn't actually see it Terrasilize into the Fire type at all. And if he did that a little bit earlier on, he'd be able to take any potential Fairy moves and the Torkoal moves a little bit better in that game. And if the Hatterene decided to go for any Fairy moves into it, catching those Fairy moves a little bit earlier with the Terrasalization means it would take even less damage too as you start to deal with it a little bit later on. So there's definitely things Faaiz could still do with the same 4 Pokemon versus Álex. It just depends on whether Álex wants to switch things up for him as well this time, because that Armarouge is definitely another Trick Room option that he could use.
Do you think then that Faaiz should change up the lead? Because at this point he was forced to switch that King, I believe was it King Gambit straight out during that turn 1 whilst you were able to capitalize off of having Great Tusk. But I was going to ask you the question. We've got the answer.
Yes, we do, exactly. So Great Tusk is here once again. Yeah, we had the switch out to the Flutter main before, which was then able to deal out a lot of offensive pressure because once the Psychic terrain had gone, there was no option for Flutter main to go down to those powerful Psychic moves from Hatterene. So King Gambit is in again. I would like to see that Terrestrialization focus more over there instead of on the ground Terrestrialization of the Iron Tusk here. So Ice Spinner is the move of choice once again.
It makes a lot of sense. You're able to get rid of that Psychic terrain. However, the King Gambit is still on the field, goes for the Assurance there, and picks up the KO. That is all of a sudden a great momentum swing. However, we see Álex actually opted to go for the Trick Room there. Do we think that was a double Trick Room, David? Or maybe the Hatterene going on the offensive during that turn?
Yeah, Álex seemed completely unfazed there, just knowing that both these Pokemon only had offensive moves to go for, and predicting the Ice Spinner and some sort of Dark move, either Pokemon is going to go down at this point, so I don't blame him really for going for that Trick Room option. It means that even though you might be targeting the Hatterene down here, just in case you go for the Indeedee, Hatterene would have been able to get stuff off and sweep itself. But either way, Álex has got up exactly what he wants, and it's Torkoal with 4 turns of Trick Room with a lot of firepower behind it.
Exactly, and I think that sort of is a bit of a testament to Faiz's mind frame during that Game 1, Turn 1. Perhaps respecting the Hatterene a bit too much with the Mystical Fire, thinking there may be a helping hand, and if that calculation could somehow pick up a KO onto the King Gambit. But we are in Trick Room. We have a Torkoal on the field, ladies and gents. Be very well aware of it, as it is going to be terrestrializing into the Fire type, of course. About to dispatch a great amount of damage, but not onto the King Gambit, as it is going to be going for the Protect as well as the Great Tusk. So makes a lot of sense. You want to be able to stall out as many of the Trick Room turns as possible in order to better position yourself outside of it.
Yeah, so the Indeedee does go for Follow Me and the Eruption just to dish out that damage. I think Álex is probably looking to see some sort of terrestrialization on Faiz's end, because as soon as he gets that out of the King Gambit into the Fire type to take the Fire moves better, that means Álex can now then safely start going for the Earth Power option Torkoal actually has. And that is a move I'd really like to see how much damage it can actually do to a King Gambit. It's probably going to be a 3-hit KO, would probably be my guess, which is probably enough for King Gambit to keep staying alive. Especially with the Dazzling Gleam from the Indeedee, it's not going to do a whole lot of damage. So even if Álex calls the Terrestrialization, I think it still puts Faiz in a decent position with how much bulk he has. And thanks to the Focus Sash and this Great Tusk, it's always going to be able to take 1 hit as well. And with a Headlong Rush, it's going to be able to take some sort of KO. So there's going to be a lot of damage this turn, I think. But Faiz is still in a good position to stall out this Trick Room.
And Fluttermane's a good Pokemon to switch in because of how high of a special defensive bulk it does naturally have. And I think, like you were alluding to as well, David, we are going to be seeing the terrestrialization of King Gambit into, of course, the Fire type as well. So seeing the cool tricks from Torkoal's side, saying, you know what, I want a bit of that, even though it's not going to be able to deal as much damage. It is, however, going to be able to resist a bit more better, most definitely. And the Fluttermane survives on 3 HP, only to be taken out by that female Indeedee with the Dazzling Gleam. What does the King Gambit do, though? It goes for the Assurance into the Torkoal. Going to be able to deal a bit of chip damage, let's say, although it will be reducing the damage output of that Eruption.
That is true, and it does mean we need to ask the question, does King Gambit live another Eruption, right? However, with the Dazzling Gleam chip and everything, it doesn't really look like it. I was like talking about Earth Power and saying like, oh, does he call the fire and stuff like. He doesn't even need to. Just click Eruption and like look how much damage it did. Literally over half through that resisted hit from this Torkoal into King Gambit, which is such a bulky Pokemon too. No wonder people are trying to run Assault Vest on their King Gambits quite a lot of the time, which unfortunately this one is not. It's actually black glasses. So as we can see, it takes so much damage. Mousehold though is the switch in, and it can support with a bit of Follow Me.
Exactly, and it does offer the Friend Guard ability as well. Let's see if that's going to assist. However, King Gambit goes for the Protect here. We did see the Helping Hand coming out from that female Indeedee. Of course, the Torkoal once again trying to go for maximum damage output, only to be met by a double Protect.
Still stalling out the Trick Room, which Faiz is doing a good job of doing. But I believe there is still one more turn of Trick Room left, and at this point he's going to be losing resources at the moment, especially if he starts to give away some of the Pokemon right now. Great Tusk is in the back as the main way to deal damage, but as we can see, we've had the Hatterene and the Indeedee, the Torkoals come in, there's still a fresh new Pokemon in the back too, which we don't know what that is either. So, and again, if it comes to that 2 versus 1 that we saw from Álex Soto last time, he can still use his resources that he has just more Pokemon just to win out at the moment.
Giving the helping hand assistance once again. This female Indeedee will be further powering the eruption of this Torkoal. However, there is no Psychic Terrain on the field, which does mean it will be able to outspeed it, deal a good amount of damage, reducing the damage output of this eruption. Even if it's a critical hit on the Kingambit, it's able to survive. And now the Trick Room has finally expired.
A great call by Faaiz to quickly, just at the last moment, to get rid of some of that eruption power that Torkoal can dish out. But now we're in a position where we need to look at how this Indeedee's speed is maybe trained versus the Kingambit. Because Kingambit is naturally slower, but Indeedee is obviously on the Trick Room team, so you may want to make it as slow as possible.
Yep.
Kingambit might be a little bit fast. So this is where Indeedee can go for a Dazzling Gleam and potentially pick up the KO on Kingambit, depending on the speed interaction here, which might have a decent effect into the outcome of this next round. Especially because it's a spread move, as you've mentioned before, Costa. It seems to be really coming into play despite this Mousehold's Follow Me ability.
Ooh, but the female Indeedee is actually going to be switched out. Wants to be able to preserve that Psychic Terrain, as Sucker Punch has been quite problematic for Alex's strategy. Super Fang goes into the Kingambit, accompanied by an Assurance, which is not enough to pick up the KO. Torkoal standing strong, still stays on the field, deals the eruption damage, and picks up the double KO onto Faiz's Pokemon.
Yet again, like, Álex goes, right, if you don't target Torkoal, I'm still going to erupt. Yeah. And then he just goes for it.
That's it.
And like, it has got completely double KO once again. Faaiz again being punished for not targeting this little tortoise down for this candlelit dinner. It's really set itself out for versus Faaiz. Again, Great Tusk, again with the Focus Sash, but it's not looking amazing versus the 3 remaining Pokemon on Alex's end.
It's quite unfortunate because we're in a situation where Earthquake, once again, would be really, really nice. But however, we see the Headlong Rush will be picking up the KO onto this Torkoal, and I think there's just too much for this Great Tusk to be able to deal with at this point, due to the fact that single target damage only will not be able to pick up the necessary KOs it needs, especially since that is pretty much a 2-hit KO coming out from the Kingambit's Iron Head there, and this female Indeedee is at maximum HP. So this Great Tusk is really going to somehow have to dig deep if possible.
Yep, Faaiz has to bank on Álex for some reason not going for the Follow Me into this Kingambit, so it does get the KO, but obviously Indeedee is now able to go for the attacking move of itself. So it looks like back-to-back Games 1 and Game 2, Indeedee gets the clinching win with the Dazzling Gleam into the Great Tusk, getting Álex the win of this top 8 match, and he advances into the top 4.
Wow, what an impressive showcase from Álex Soto, as well as his hard Trick Room team. David, I didn't realize female Indeedee actually classifies as a sweeper last I checked, because it has picked up both Game 1 and Game 2 with the finishing hit, and in what stellar fashion as well. It was really cool seeing Alex's management when it came to towards the mid-end game scenario of Trick Room starting to expire. You're able to at least prioritize saving, let's say, a female Indeedee in the back. You're able to reset Psychic Terrain, but also take the damage that was directed into that slot. There was a double up of the Super Fang and the Assurance, which surely normally would pick up the KO on a lot of Pokemon in this meta, but was met with a Kingambit that was able to resist it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Álex seems to have piloted this team so well. Like, you say, he sat there so cool and calm, able to take every single hit that he could. He knows the exact sort of calcs. He knew the eruptions, say, from that really weak Torkoal was still going to be able to pick up the mouse hold if it wasn't targeted, and still the resisted hit on the Kingambit too. So an excellently well-played game, to be honest, in and out of Trick Room, using that Torkoal into even stuff that just resists it as well, to just deals out so much damage. It really shows, if anything, that, like, it does make a difference as to what sort of team you end up bringing and what sort of a call you can make about what other people are going to bring too.
Well, exactly, and I think playing to your strengths is the #1 key thing. Your familiarity with your team is honestly so important, because even though you think about team synergies, specific parts of the team, partner Pokemon, you need to have really good synergy with your team. You need to know the ins and outs of it and which correct Pokemon to bring based on said scenario. And that is exactly what Álex has been able to identify so sublimely every single time we've been able to feature him. And he's just gone ahead and clinched that top 4 position.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how he's going to do in top 4 and in the finals as well, potentially.
Potentially, yes.
There, because there seems to be nothing that really kind of stops him at the moment. And the thing is, there's not a lot of kind of RNG that is involved in his team either. Everything is just 100% accurate. Follow me always works. Trick him always goes up. There's not a lot that can go wrong versus something like a sleep powder or like a hydro pump mist or something that is kind of a key part of your game plan. So it's such a consistent team that he can use versus anybody, whereas other people may have to bank on switching in something in the right slot, protecting the right Pokemon, that sort of thing. But if you have spread damage and everything is just accurate, you only need to click the right button and you'll know whether it's going to work or not so much more of the time.
Exactly, and I do believe that both Faaiz and Álex had gone up against each other yesterday during day 1 of the Swiss rounds, and where Faaiz actually was the victor of the bout, the first trainer to be able to break the undefeated record of Álex. So being able to actually see that on play has been remarkable, to how Álex has adapted to how to best actually go against Faiz's adaptations or strategies, saying, right, I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to try to retaliate as best as possible in order to clinch the victory. I think we saw that namely with David Kotesh versus, oh my lord, my brain. David Kotesh versus Eric Rios, of course, where Eric was able to just bring that back. David was able to beat Eric yesterday 2-0, and then we saw the return of Eric being able to clinch that out 2-1. So it is very important to stress the amount of mind games that are at play between the trainers.
And we've seen Torkold just do so well in general throughout yesterday, throughout today as well, regardless of the options that it kind of brings to its team. We've seen this Series 1 base team that just kind of dishes out so much damage, and the slower ones that kind of support all the other Paradox Pokemon. So we're going to make sure that when we kind of go into these other matches that we need to give a lot of focus to this Torkold, because I think it's something that is going to maybe redefine what we may see at the next regional, which is going to be in Utrecht.
Exactly. And apologies, I think I may have misworded something there. It was today, actually, because there's so much that went on during this day, I've just lost it at this point. I think it was earlier today during the regular Swiss rounds where Álex went up against Faaiz, as Álex, of course, was undefeated yesterday. But we will be able to cut shortly over to the winner's interview, where we are setting up a talk to find a bit more out about Álex, as well as how his form is at the minute. I mean, we know it's sublime. We just need to see what his thoughts are after that sort of matchup. But going into top 4, I am curious to see which other trainers will be able to clinch those final 3 positions, because it has been really hard. It's been highly contested throughout the entire day, so being able to see which teams were able to make it through and break into top 4 will be great.
And something I'd like to at least ask Álex at some point, I really hope one of our casters is able to do, is ask it, is how he's been feeling about using a team that has just no Paradox Pokemon. In format that's just been dominated by. We've seen so much Fluttermane, so much I'm Bundle, that like, just bring none of that to it and use none of those new pieces. Did he just kind of like look at the format and go, and just see the Pokemon go, no, none of these kind of do what I want, and yet I just still win and versus these Pokemon. Because if you look at them, you can see that there's nothing that really wants to operate in like a really slow Trick Room environment again. You know, maybe got the slow ones like Iron Hands and Brute Bonnet. But none of those kind of turn on the offense just as quickly as something like the Torkoal and the Hatterene. And combined with the Indeedee female, which is really valuable in stopping opposing fake outs to work, using your own fake out then just enables your opponent to do the same, which then just slows the pace of the match. And when you want to really make the most of the trick room turns that you've got, then having that psychic terrain makes a lot of sense, and then the rest of the team just kind of falls into place offensively. So it's a really well-built team, and kudos to whoever gets to be able to break this down, because it was Faaiz who did it last time, and he just lost to it again.
Exactly. I think we need to remind Alex, by the way, this is Series 1, not Series 2, but I think he's well aware of it, of course. What we will be doing is we'll be going straight through to the winner's interview on the couch, where we'll be able to hear more from our winner.
Hello trainers, welcome back to the 2023 Bochum Pokemon Regional Championships. My name is Ben Kiriakou, joined here on the couch by the winner of your top 8 match, Álex Soto. And Alex, getting into top 4 now, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I saw yesterday that today maybe I can win the tournament. And I'm here right now.
Well, you did say that yesterday, how, if I asked you whether it was going to be your tournament or not, and you seemed pretty positive, and you're here in top 4, so, oh, fingers crossed.
Only 2 games more.
Only 2 games more. So, talking about that, how are you, mentally preparing yourself for those last 2 games? Are you thinking just 1 game at a time?
I faced my opponent in this tournament, and my opponent won me. So I have to prepare a different strategy to can beat him. And then I played so risky in some turns, but Torkoal definitely can carry with Eruption every game, but it not was the most important. The most important was the switch in DD. That was super important.
That Indeedee really did a lot of work in the end game. We don't see too many Indeedee beating Great Tusk at the end of a game, so you did really well. So what was your thought process going into the matchup? How did you adjust to playing Faaiz again just later in the day?
Could you repeat that, sorry?
How did you adjust your game plan going into the match with Faaiz?
Okay, my game plan was set up the trick room with Indeedee and Hatterene, like using Follow Me and using trick room. This is the safe play when you are using trick room. The safe play is using Follow Me and trick room. But in the second game, I tried to attack directly with Hatterene and set up the trick room with Indeedee, and my opponent read that, and he played so well in that turn, but fortunately Torkoal could carry that and finally won the game.
That Torkoal put in so much work in the end game, didn't it? It was really great to see you clicking Eruption, even though you weren't in Trick Room, and it was under so much threat of damage. What was going through your mind at that point in the game?
Torkoal Eruption is great. You have to be in a good position to use it, because if you lose some damage, the damage that you do with Eruption is less. That's why you have to protect them. You have to use Follow Me when it's necessary to protect the damage. You have to use Helping Hand when you can guarantee a KO, and that's important. In the second game, I have a little bit lag. I have a critical hit that, in my opinion, was important, because I don't know if with 2 eruptions I could kill that King Gambit, but I have lag in that turn, and I saw sorry to my opponent.
Sometimes that's what the game, what happens in the game, and you have to roll with the punches either way, don't you? So, talking a little bit about your experience in VGC, what would you say to new players that want to start competing at the regional and international level to help them prepare for these sort of events?
In my opinion, the best way to learn is seeing good professionals, good competitors playing in YouTube, or going to tournaments only to see how they play, and practice so much. You have to do some ranked battles, practice, and don't expect to do it great in your first tournament, because it's so difficult. I have some friends who try to do it great today, and they are the second tournament that they play, and they don't do good. But I say to them that focus, don't worry about that, practice, keep going, and at the end you will doing great in one tournament.
It's all about that practice, 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 and keeping improving through
Hello,
everything
Pokemon
that you do.
trainers.
It's
we
so
are
great
at
to
the
hear,
end
and
of an
I'm sure
amazing
very
weekend here at the
helpful for
Bochum
viewers
Regional
at home.
Championships.
Before we cut to a
40
break,
of some-
is there any shout-outs that you want to make to any friends and family that have helped you along the way?
I will say hello to my girlfriend, that it's Ari, and I will say hello to one friends, Daz, Chuso, Folagor, Sekiam. They are good persons. They are seeing that. Hello for him, and Isaac Kalal. It's one of my friends too.
Brilliant. I'm sure they're very grateful for that shout out. We're going to be going to a short break now, but we'll be back very, very soon for the top 4 of the Bochum Regional Championships. Stay tuned.